The Philosophy Born of Massacres paper I did about 3 years ago, and it was on the Marikana. I call that a massacre. And it was very much about looking at the relationship between the black male subject as the minor and also the black male subject as the policeman. So the way in which that relationship is formed is very interesting. You have, the black population in South Africa having suffered and endured all those, centuries of apartheid. And here is the black minor still reminding us, in the eyes of the police, of the indigenous black man. The black man who has a tribal identity, who is showing us this is where we come from. And the black policeman, who is your postmodern black man with the suit and tie after hours, who's showing this indigenous black man, how, your way of being black is not correct. Your way of being black is troubling. Your way of being black is an embarrassment. Your way of being black is tribal, and we have to kill that form of being black. So it's about looking at that split between what W.E.B. Du Bois talks about in terms of double consciousness, and he uses it in a way to say, the black man sees himself being seen, but that being seen is being seen by the white man. And here you have the black man as the policeman who has that double consciousness, but in this case, the white man is also present, is also the captain of the police, is also the person who is orchestrating how you're going to run in that rugby line, and how are you going to mount your attack, and how you're going to funnel that black indigenous man and make him into that animal, that tribal animal, funnel him through the fence like a chicken, and make sure that you streamline that process. I mean, some of the videos we've seen, face-to-face shots of minors being killed. So it's about looking at the way that the black subject is orchestrated in our society, is massacred, is killed, and what that killing means. And, in that paper I use very strong forbidden language in the South African context of using the K word. I talk about it in ways that my grandfather experienced, me growing up with a grandfather, a sister who was called that as well. And it's about killing the native. It is about killing the subject who refuses to let his native identity go, who has a claim to the land, who speaks from that position of his ancestral identity, being killed by the postmodern black man, who in this case is the policeman, who's saying, your black identity, your indigenous black identity is an embarrassment to us, right? So it's about that kind of interrelationship.
Okay.
And how, as a society, we are socialized to participate in it, in terms of viewership, as alibis. We are witness to this, right? In the way that one is an alibi who basically says, I was there when it happens. But we're not in any way encouraged to use any form of agency to address it. So that was the 2013 paper. This particular panel for this session on Philosophy Born of Struggle was very much about black male subjectivity. So we had a panel, 2 of our students presented on, research work on black men, young black men, who are incorporated into in war conflict situations, especially in West Africa, where they are also raped and sexually abused. Yet at the same time, when aid agencies go into, for example, Sierra Leone, they're not looking to see or they're not looking to ask questions about the violence perpetrated against young African men, because in their eyes, the young African man is the perpetrator, not the victim. So it also, Pilili does a very good job of this in her work when she talks about that sort of false assumption that feminists have articulated about a singular way in which one looks at a perpetrator. And in this case, a young black African man is also a victim. There's also vulnerability. There's also the refusal to participate in violence means that you are violated. So there's that dynamic. Zaria did a fantastic job in also looking at the way that black gender-based violence is articulated within the context of Durban. She has a few examples that she used to talk about the inadequacies of that particular definition that doesn't situate black men as victims, that constantly sees the black man as a perpetrator. So there were lots of very interesting papers. It was a 3-day conference, and it's a conference that sort of developed from some of the work that I think some of its pioneers or initiators, I would say, did in the 1960s vis-a-vis the Black Panther movement, vis-a-vis all kinds of struggles that they were involved in, and put together a philosophy conference 23 years ago. There's a book called Philosophy Born of Struggle, a collection. There's a new one coming out. But for us here in the South African context, to also look at that overlap, for example, of the Black Power movement and the Black Power sort of slogans and infused in the Black Panthers and the Black consciousness movement here from the 1960s, and how that has brought us to moments of philosophical thinking about being in the world, about what it means to be a black subject. So, and what it means to be a black subject in struggle. So for me, it's about that. And then my particular angle on philosophy born of massacres is what I see as what has come out of philosophy born of struggle in terms of my own work, of looking at what that struggle is, but also looking at the massacre, the genocide, the attack, the violence against black men. I mean, we can't overlook it. It's not something we can turn the other way. We had that incident last year, 1st of February 2015. Young black man raped with the end of the broom at an agricultural college, otherwise known as White Africana Domain, right? And he died a year later. And what do we say? Oh gosh, what a tragedy. So it's from those positions of struggle that I think we need to write to produce knowledge.